Good night and welcome to Teleislas News with the most relevant and important information of the day. A controversial suppose was made known by several national press media, where it was announced that within the negotiations between the current president, Petro, with Nicaragua, the president of Colombia would have proposed to accept the judgment of the International Court of Justice in exchange for the release of political prisoners who are in Nicaragua.
President Gustavo Petro allegedly proposed to the Ortega administration that Colombia would recognize the Hague ruling in exchange for the release of some of the political prisoners being held in the prisons of El Chipote, Nicaragua. After Colombia was the target of criticism for not showing up at the assembly session of the Organization of American States, OAS, where a vote was taken on the human rights situation under the regime of Daniel Ortega, this was revealed in a report presented by an important national media where it was explained that the government of Gustavo Petro knew about the OAS extraordinary session in Nicaragua and chose to be absent. 2 days later, the Foreign Ministry issued a communique explaining that Colombia had a humanitarian operation underway that could be compromised. According to one of the media outlets that published the news, the administration of Daniel Ortega closed any type of negotiation with Gustavo Petro that had to do with the release of at least 14 political prisoners and urged the Colombian government to comply with the ICJ ruling. According to another news source, William Grigsby Vado, one of the main promoters of the Ortega regime, stated on his radio program Primerísima that Petro had proposed to the Ortega government that Colombia would recognize the Hague ruling in exchange for the release of some of the political prisoners being held in the Chipote prison in Nicaragua. This news company will be attentive to the information that is issued regarding this controversial matter, and we emphasize that there is no evidence of such proposal so far.
Considering President Petro's alleged proposal to Nicaragua to comply with the ruling in exchange for the release of political prisoners, these are the opinions of island leaders.
Creo, en definitiva,
I believe that between this litigation involving Nicaragua and Colombia, the only losers are the members of the Raizal ethnic people. There is no doubt about the damage that has been done to the Raizal people, and that in the future the damage will be worse. Whether or not dialogue is accepted between the two countries is a situation that has been going on since the 2001 lawsuit filed by Nicaragua. That is when there should have been dialogue between the countries and the presidents to protect the Raizal ethnic people.
In the same vein, the president of the Community Action Board gave her opinion on the alleged proposal of President Petro to Nicaragua.
No estoy de acuerdo con el señor presidente.
I do not agree with Mr. President, who wants to accept the decision of The Hague that has caused so much damage to the islands, where the rights of the fishermen have been violated, where since the decision, the fishing activity on the island is not the same.
Finally, the lawyer who specialized in the former litigation between Colombia and Nicaragua expressed his consideration regarding the press articles on the controversial subject.
Pero yo pienso que el presidente Petro
I think that President Petro at no time has been out of the context of the nation and to comply, because in his campaign he always said that in his line of government would be to comply with the ruling. Now, the information exposed is based on press media. The states and the public administration manifest themselves through administrative acts, as well as when the government of Colombia did not show up. What we must do is wait for what our representative says on all international issues. In case it is true, it would not be greater than the will of the president, who has always expressed to be compliant with the ruling, reaching the agreements with Nicaragua to enforce the ruling. The president has never gone against this.
And the Seaflower Biosphere Reserve was present at the launching of the mangrove restoration project in Mexico.
The environmental event took place between August 27 and September 3rd, where the islands were present throughout an important project developed by the Coralina Environmental Corporation on behalf of Colombia.
el programa sobre el hombre.
UNESCO's Man and the Biosphere program. I started the implementation of one of the most ambitious projects entitled Mangrove Restoration. based on nature in Latin American biosphere reserves. The project was formulated and has a duration of 3 years, and its main objective is to carry out an assessment of the state of mangrove ecosystems and their restoration potential by undertaking restoration campaigns using local knowledge and science, promoting education for sustainable development.
The director of Seas and Cows also highlighted Colombia's role in the international meeting.
Colombia was taken into account by the Seaflower Biosphere Reserve of San Andres. The project activities will be supported by a scientific group from the participating countries and specialists from Belgium to ensure the exchange of knowledge and experiences, as well as North-South and South-South collaboration.
Finally, Miles indicated a schedule to be followed by each participating country.
El proyecto,
The project will start this year, and the invited countries must diagnose the deepest problems they have in the most deteriorated areas of their mangrove ecosystems.
The countries that participated in the environmental space where the islands were present for a week were Mexico, Peru, Colombia, Cuba, Ecuador, Panama, and El Salvador, were able to share experiences and problems that allowed them to be enriched with ideas to prevent and develop strategies that benefit the ecosystem of each place.
In other news, as part of the commemoration of World Day for the Prevention of Suicide, the local government will hold a series of activities.
In the framework of the World Suicide Prevention Day to be celebrated on September 10, the Secretariat of Health will develop a series of activities to prevent this behavior in the archipelago from tomorrow, starting at night church in the auditorium of the local government.
Mañana vamos a tener la tercera sala situacional.
Tomorrow we will have the third working group to make the action plan for suicide prevention in 5 strategic axes, where different sectors such as education, government, commerce, ICT press, citizen participation, and different institutions will be participating to work together in suicide prevention. Saturday, September 10 is the official International Day for the commemoration, and we are inviting all the citizens of the department to light a candle at 8 o'clock in the evening in honor of the people who have died by suicide and their survivors, and also support people who are going through depression and anxiety.
The Secretariat of Health also informed that on September 16 at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, there will be an educational panel with young people at the Colombian Institute of Family Welfare to discuss mental health.
The Secretariat of Tourism carried out a socialization with national delegates on the progress of the certification of the Sprat Bight as a blue flag beach.
Having high-quality beaches on the island are a priority for the Tourism Secretariat. With this premise in mind, the head of the portfolio, Juan Enrique Archbold, met with delegates from Acodar Centro and the Vice Ministry of Tourism to share the progress and strategies in the application of the Sprat Bight area as a blue flag beach. The portfolio will carry out constant training with the lifeguard team and will take into account the lifeguards of Old Providence. In addition, seawater samples were sent to a private laboratory in the capital of the country to know firsthand the state of the water on the beaches. Training is also being carried out with tourist service providers to enhance the service provided in the area, and at the same time, they are in the process of acquiring equipment to guarantee the proper service of the lifeguard towers. After an inspection in the Sprat Bight area, the delegates recommended continuing with the process, continuing to comply with the requirements, and submitting them for the evaluation process in November. Finally, it is estimated that by December 2022, the blue flag will be raised on the Sprat Bight beaches.
And the blockade continues on Carrera 13. Residents of the area indicated that they will not leave the blockade until there is a dialogue with the governor, Everett Hawkins.
Since Tuesday, September 6, residents of District 4 have decided to obstruct Carrera 13 due to the poor condition of the road, arguing that it represents a danger to drivers and pedestrians. They also stated that the dialogue table established with the local government on July 15th stipulated a solution to the condition of the road, which to date has not been complied with.
We decided to block the road because it is full of holes. We cannot cross on this ugly road. It is full of holes. And when we want to cross the road, the motorcycles do not let us because they get on where we pass, because they do not want to get into the holes. We're tired of it. I'm asking the governor to come and show his face. Here they come all the time. They promise us that they're going to do this and they're going to do that. Essentially, they're making a mockery of us.
The community has been talking to the Mobility, Public Services and Infrastructure departments about the Carrera 13 project. This news agency consulted with the head of the infrastructure office, who stated that there are delays in the provisional repair of the road due to the machinery, but that the bidding process for the road repair is already underway.
The other agreement was to provisionally fix the hole and the patch that there in the road. And what happened is that everyone's know we are doing a process to get parts and put in function the machine then from the government. That Kera contract process that is going ahead. Meanwhile, we have an alternative to get some barrows to do the work. But to get the material, we are making certain demolitions in certain places that we want to build. And the machine that helping us with that went into a difficult damage. So we are recovering that to continue the demolition, to get the materials that we need to fill up the road and to do a good disposition of it.
This news agency will be following the development of this news event and the lifting of the blockade on Carrera 13.
And in spite of the inconformities and delays that have been presented in the paving works of the Pepper Hill Road, the contractors are already doing the leveling to pour the concrete and thus be able to advance in this important work for the benefit of the community.
Starting on Thursday, the Orange Hill and Pepper Hill roads will begin to be paved. This will be a great advance towards the completion of these roads that are so much needed by the community of these sectors. This was announced by the Secretary of Infrastructure, Alfredo Escalona.
Finally, in the last committee of building that we had with the contractors of the road, we had evidence that they make the what they call the evaluation of flooring, and they proceed to make our programmation to pave the road, start paving the first meters, the first hundreds meters of road for this end of this week. The day of Thursday and Friday they will be paving, and by they know that we are pending that they pave the road before they do any more breaking of the road. That stay in agreement. They cannot break no more until they start to pave it. So they are accelerating this for the well of the construction, and give the people the most fastest as possible the facility to have this road in the less time as possible and cut down on the time that we can give them in service.
After learning of the progress of these works, Teleislas News spoke with residents of the Pepper Hill sector who expressed that they can't wait for this work to be finished since it has caused them complications in their daily lives.
Just want to make them know, say, it's over 4 months, then come and broke the road. The agreement wasn't that. The agreement was to broke and fix, and every time you ask a question, then tell us the same thing over and over. Every week, then go and fix. Every week, then they bring material. Every week, then they fix the bed with the steel and come and put down the cement. And nothing like that. It's just a story and story and story what they have been telling us all the time. And every time you say anything to the engineer, and come up with something different, inclusive. Sometime in this week, I hear a commentary when put up for Caracol or no notion of them. I say this week, in the week, and want done throw the cement. Make a wait and see what they decide to do, because if not, the community we have to take a next step because it's too long now when they have the telling us a lot of story they invent just to calm us down.
It should be noted that today the contractors were taking measurements for the leveling of the roads that are under construction.
At this time, we continue with news from the municipality of Full Providence and Santa Catalina with Millicent O'Neill.
Good evening to all our viewers. This is the most relevant information from Old Providence and Catalina. Today, students returned to class. The teachers lifted the strike after a virtual meeting and having reached some agreements with the Unión Temporal del Norte.
After a virtual meeting with the leadership of the Northern Temporary Union Health Provider, the Departmental Secretary of Health and Education plus assistant representatives with Providence teachers were able to attain some agreements. For this reason, the strike was lifted and both students and teachers returned to classes.
And they give us some agreement. They take out the authorization, what was the problem for us here. They start to call the teacher them to go to the appointment in San Andres and in Barranquilla, and we have the problem with the medication here is solved. We have to say thank you, praise the Lord. The meeting wasn't presential, but we get our objective what we had the strike for.
Although most of the points that were being requested were agreed upon, the request of an office in the municipality for teachers' attention was not achieved. However, according to the teachers' president, the mayor committed to do his bit on this point.
The alcalde going to give us an office, he going to give us some workers, he going to give us a head nurse, an auxiliary nurse, he going to give us the person to clean, and the local and with everything, with air, with a light, with everything. And I believe that is a gain for the teacher, if we get that.
On the other hand, some teachers clarified that they do not trust the promises given and await the signed minutes, a document with the commitments that guarantee the continuity and compliance of what was agreed upon.
And after complaints in social media, public lighting has been improving on the island's Ring Road. However, most of the neighborhood roads are still affected with this service since the hurricane.
Although in recent days the street light situation is improving on the main street, some neighborhoods are in darkness since the hurricane. This is the case of most of the neighborhoods located off the main road. The community asked for the lights to be installed.
For the hurricane, we have no light on the road. They can come in your house and kill you because you don't have a light to see.
In Maracaibo, there is only one pole with light from one end to the other.
All the way from the entrance of the fire station to here, there are dark areas. We have to go through the Littoral Group offices, along the Blue Hotel, and it is super dark around here. Honestly, I don't know where the public lighting is. In the news, in Caracol, in several media sources, it says that Providence already has street lighting, but they must be talking by sectors or by houses or whatever. We only have one light that we got after the hurricane, and to this day, it is still there.
Very bad from the hurricane coming, they not come back. As how Alcaldía is who the in chargement at this, then don't come back, come go look about light down in here, no way at all.
So the place dark at night?
Place dark at night, and then picnic custom for run because if we borrow picnic, then custom for run and play in here, and not even that the picnic then lock up like if then they in a hurricane yet.
Neighborhoods off the main road in Old Town and other sections also show street light damage. Teleislas News contacted the Secretary of Infrastructure, but so far no statement on the subject has been obtained.
This is all we have for tonight for the section of Old Providence and Catalina. Continue in San Andres, Lisa, with more Teleislas News. Good night.
Thank you, Millie. And with news of the municipality, we reach to the end of our broadcast. Tomorrow we continue at 1 p.m. with more of Teleislas News. Good night.